Hello everybody, today we are going to be taking a look over the Minecraft Live 2023 live stream, and I like to do this every year, is to take a really deep dive look and see if there's any details hiding in plain sight. Starting off, this was the part of the live stream that talked about the trial chambers. And the first thing that I want to do is get a better look at some of the crazy blocks that we're seeing. We definitely get to see a lot of new styles of blocks, so I want to highlight a few. I think that this scene right here is probably one of the better scenes to kind of look at these new, I believe that they're tough blocks. And these are chiseled on the bottom, so you can kind of see a typical block over here where you have a, I guess, a brick and then another brick, you brick and another brick. But on this block right here, you can see that you kind of have a design, one brick, and then another design. And that design kind of takes up the space of a half brick, basically. So you can kind of see that this is one entire block right here. So that is the boundaries of that new type of block. Other than these two tough blocks, we don't really get to see a lot more tough style blocks. There's also this texture on the ceiling that could just be the top texture of one of these two. Although later we see a scene where they're outdoors and these look like those bricks. So it looks like the bricks have a brick texture just like the stone bricks. And then there is another sort of smooth texture. And then also we are seeing some fences over here as well. So it looks like these type of blocks get kind of the whole treatment of stairs, slabs, and everything. Before we move off of the blocks, let's talk a little bit about some of the copper things that we're seeing. This is copper grate, and it can be oxidized just like normal copper. We also get this amazing view right here of more of the copper grate, some of this like chiseled copper, and then a door. This is a copper door, and it's also been oxidized. Now, this handle on the door has led me to suspect that possibly this is like a lock. Maybe? It was mentioned in the comments of one of my past videos that this kind of looks like the silhouette of a lock, and maybe this is a more lockable door than others, or maybe that's just how the handle on this texture looks. Later on, there are definitely some copper trap doors. So that's what's going on here. You can actually see this wind projectile. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But as it hits these players, it actually activates these copper doors so that they will open. And then once it does it again, it closes those doors one more time. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the copper bulb. You can see one here, here, and then they really focus on one in this next scene right here. So this is a new light source in Minecraft. And in this scene, you can see that you got this other character scraping off the oxidation off of the bulbs, and it brightens up the light. You can really see it on the walls and the ceiling, especially right here in this demo. So as you unoxidize and scrape off the oxidation, the light will get brighter, which is really cool. And you can use beeswax on this and wax it so that it won't become oxidized. And then, of course, you can use the axe to scrape off oxidation or other wax. Now, we saw these all over the place, especially in this like village scene. You could see them being hung off of a lot of the buildings. And what's good to note is that these don't require any redstone. So if these were redstone lamps, you'd have to have some type of redstone source in order to turn them on. But you can see that they are lit without any type of redstone. So far, you may actually be led to believe that they're always lit and there isn't an off state. But if you look way back in the back, you can actually see a few of these lamps, these copper bulbs, that are turned off. There's literally one other shot where this is obvious, and that's this shot right here with this copper bulb in the background turned off. And what's going on here is that you can turn on and off the copper bulb with just a pulse of redstone. It doesn't need to be a constant redstone signal like you do with the redstone lamp. You just need to hit it with redstone once, and then it'll change its state. This has been mentioned that this, when used with a comparator, can be a little T flip-flop, because that's how T flip-flops work. Now, let's talk a little bit about the trial chamber. We kind of glossed over this to focus on the blocks, but this is a massive structure that will have many rooms coming off of this main corridor. Can't wait to see all these rooms. We got a taste of basically a few of them. Like, I'm thinking that we saw 3 different types of rooms is my guess, and I'll show them to you now. This is kind of the first type of room. You can see that it goes down to almost like it's looking to start like a maze. Like, you got stuff that goes kind of all crazy different directions, so you have to choose which way to go. Off of this room, there's another one, and this is where we actually saw a chest. At the top of the stairs, we get a good shot of it right here, that is a lootable chest. So this is kind of all connected to the first room. And then finally, that area leads into this trial spawner. Now, I'm classifying this as a whole separate space because the trial spawner seems to be a big part that they're talking about the trial chambers. You got the trial spawner. Before we head on into some more rooms and another room that we see, let's talk about the trial spawner. You can see these particles that it activates right here. That is what I believe is the indication that the trial has started. So when you are ready, I guess these type of particles are what is going to kind of seem like it is starting the trial. And we can see a initial wave spawn in, and then we get kind of just a few later that spawn in after. So after that is killed, it looks like they get another wave. So it's kind of some weird editing and some weird shots going on. But it looked like they killed all the strays, and then another one kind of popped in. Looks like we may have just gotten some spawning particles again. So it looks like they may have fought off 3 different waves. And then their rewards look to be emeralds, and around 2 in that stack, and diamond, and it looks like just 1 diamond. So you can see that they throw out a whole bunch of emeralds, but I only see 1 diamond kind of ever. Small detail is that this spawner has lost the color that it used to have. So before it was orange, and now it is gray with particles coming off of it. And that brings us to the last room that we see, and we see this later on in the whole presentation, but it is this room right here where they fight the breeze. And it's just a larger room. It has a lot more space than the other trial chamber, but you still see the trial spawner in the center. This is the exact same spawning block that we saw before, and it even has the ice, which they called out as meaning that they were going to get a lot of strays. Since we're in this room, and since they're fighting them, let's talk a bit about the breeze. I really want you to pay attention to the movement of the breeze, and I think that this is a good indication of what this type of mob is going to be. And it's less of a big, like, boss mob and more of a fun, goofy, sort of interesting mob to fight, like an annoying mob to fight, not necessarily a difficult mob to fight. You'll see it sort of bounce around, and it has like a lot of animation to it that I didn't notice the first time I watched. See how it does this bounce sort of animation where it lifts up off of the ground like that, and then when it turns, it'll also do this weird like slide and animate its body sort of situation that's going on. You see a lot in this scene right here where you have some players in the middle of the shot. The breeze comes in from the side and it finishes up this projectile, and that aims for the players. And then when it slams into them, they get knocked back. But if you're looking at the breeze, it sort of winds up for this like dash attack. So it shoots that, and then it dashes forward, and you can see particles on the ground here as it's going, and it actually leans forward into its run, and then it leans backwards as it stops, and it kind of almost does this, like, if it had like cartoon sound effects, I'd imagine this like as it's like pulling to a stop here. Here's that scene in real time so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The breeze has a lot of animation. Now I want to point out a few things that's going on. These breeze projectiles are like concentrated wind energy, and when they land, they seem to just activate all types of redstone. So we have these copper trapdoors that we saw before, but you'll also notice this dispenser, and very difficult to tell, but there's actually a button on the block next to it. On top of that, we have this redstone lamp with a lever on top. And so you can see that will come into play later. One thing that you'll notice here is as that projectile hits this player who's standing next to the dispenser with the button gets pressed and the arrow flies out and lands on this chest right here, almost narrowly avoiding the player. In this scene, it's just a different shot. The projectile hits the redstone lamp, causing it to activate. So it seems like there's little traps, booby traps kind of set up all around this room where the dispensers will fire, the redstone lamps will turn on, the trapdoors will drop. So the room has really been built around this exact boss mob that you're going to be fighting. Next, let's talk about this crafter. Okay, the crafter is by far the most exciting block to be added into the game. So here is where we first get to look at it. The texture looks like a grid on top with redstone, and you almost have this mouth on the front of it where it'll pop out items. So Agnes goes ahead and goes into the UI of the crafter, and we get a good taste of what this is going to be. She drops in 32 chains, lots of different logs, and you get the output of the sign. But honestly, it looks like you cannot grab this output. It looks like you can't even reach over with your mouse and click the output out. There is instead a grayed out arrow, and when that arrow gets lit up later, you'll notice that it actually activates and crafts the item. So here they stick a button on the side of the crafter, press the button, and then the item is ejected. So it seems like that is how this is going to work. You'll also notice some small details with the texture change. There's like a switch on the side that when it gets activated, it goes up, and then when it is deactivated, it is down, which is kind of fun. So there's that little animation detail. So how do we actually automate this a little bit more? We get to see later in the presentation, and we get this redstone contraption situation. And if I had to guess what's going on here, which I'm not exactly sure what gate this is, but it's based off of a clock back there. I think it's like some type of, I don't know what type of gate it is, but I think that they are activating it with this button, and then it crafts it, and then it goes out, and then it starts to loop back. And then these droppers and hoppers and stuff, I think, are there to regulate how many items go into the crafter later. So I'm not exactly sure how all this redstone is working, but it gives me a good idea. This is also the big thing, is that as you hover over a item slot without anything in your hand, you can disable that item slot. This behavior is how you are able to actually use hoppers with the crafter to add the items that you need. What I believe is happening here is that the hopper is adding in the item, and it is just going to add it to the first slot that it can. So if this slot was unlocked, it would have added it into that initial slot. So it adds it into the first one that it can, which is the center one, because the other one's been disabled. Next, it adds it into the next one it can, which is this, and then the third one, which is the stick. So these hoppers probably are filled with iron, and then this dropper will insert a stick, and so it will put the stick into the right spot, is my guess. That's what the timing is for. But what's interesting is that typically a hopper would put something into an inventory and then put a second one on there. Like, this should just be 2 iron in there instead of 1 iron, 1 iron. You know what I mean? Like, if an actual hopper was working correctly, it would do that. So it looks like that behavior, that logic has been updated. And then nothing happens really until the redstone is activated, and you'll notice I'm going back in time here. As I move forward, you get the stick. You can see the repeaters on the bottom activate. This red arrow turns on, and then that item disappears along with the other items that were used to craft it. So that is how I believe that all of this is working. the items get stuck there, and you'll notice there's a little bit of a lag, and then the red arrow turns on, and then everything is gone. And so that is how auto crafting seems to be working at this very moment. Looking at the whole process slowed down like this is how I'm able to kind of understand the redstone and the back end of stuff. One detail is also, you'll notice that the grid at the top lights up red whenever it is actually crafting, and there's almost like 2 torches on either side. Those light up as well, which is a really cool detail. After this segment, then they head into this building, and I believe that the sign on it, let's see if we can read this sign. Ceiling Pandas 4. So as they walk in, you'll notice these contraptions on the wall, and it looks like they have a few auto crafters or just crafters along with dispensers. So my guess is that they have pants, boots, armor, a chest piece, and legs in each one of these crafters, and the crafters will output them into the dispensers, and then the dispenser will put it onto the player. So that is how that is happening right there. And that is just about it. Really, all of the details that I could pull out of the live stream. I hope that this extended, very detailed look at the live stream helped you out and helped you understand a little bit more about the newest Minecraft update 1.21. Can't wait to learn the name so I can actually call it something other than 1.21. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.